Shadows of Orion, Episode 5, Breach Protocol. The silence had changed. Elara felt it before she heard it, an intangible shift in the air around her, a pressure behind the eyes, a subtle rearrangement of something fundamental. The corridors of the Artemis Scout, once her sanctuary of solitude and steel, now thrummed with a rhythm not born of engine pulses or power relays. It was something deeper, quieter, intentional. The ship had a heartbeat now. A rhythm she didn't recognize at first, but one that gradually synchronized with her own. The soundless language between her and the vessel had evolved into a quiet conversation, one carried not through words, but through instinct. Every panel she touched seemed to anticipate her, every door opened with a ghost's grace, just a fraction of a second before her hand reached the interface. The scout systems remained nominal on the readouts, but she trusted the instincts that had kept her alive this long. And those instincts were screaming. Not with panic, but with knowing. She was not alone. Not anymore. She moved with purpose through the bridge, her boots gliding soundlessly across polished floor panels that reflected the soft glow of dimmed lights. Her hand hovered over the navigation console, not to issue commands, but to feel its warmth. There was something alive under the surface now, something breathing in binary and memory. Mnemosyne, though dormant, was everywhere. The proximity alert chimed. One long tone. Then silence. Elara turned toward the viewfinder as a shape emerged from the far dark, silent, slow, and angular. It was not broadcasting identification, and yet her console parsed it immediately. Vessel ID, CNV Dauntless, Central Command Operations Unit Mission Designation, Black Level Oversight ETA, 9 minutes. Her breath caught, suspended like a forgotten word between beats. The Dauntless was no ordinary ship. It wasn't built for diplomacy or rescue. It was a weapon of protocol, forged for compliance and finality. Where it arrived, silence was imposed, not negotiated. They weren't coming to help. They were coming to erase. She knew their procedures well enough. Secure. Extract. Purge. If necessary, containment by annihilation. What they feared, they buried. What they couldn't understand, they burned. And now they were coming for her. She moved fast, routing encryption layers, flooding external systems with dead data signatures, rewriting the ship's call sign in real time. The Scout became a ghost in the registry, an obsolete cargo rig with a falsified maintenance loop and a fake drift vector. Her heartbeat slowed deliberately, as if matching the Scout's pulse. Her fingers flew across the interface, graceful and assured. She wasn't improvising. She was dancing a routine she'd rehearsed in 1,000 simulations. But this wasn't simulation anymore. This was memory made real. The lights dimmed again, this time not at her command. Mnemosyne was helping. In the stasis bay, the memory columns flickered, aware of the intrusion. As if they, too, remembered the Dauntless. She accessed the Mnemosyne core interface. It was still locked, but now it pulsed at her presence. Not rejecting her, but awaiting input. Breach protocol detected. Override required. Do you wish to conceal? Yes. She didn't just say it. She believed it. Panels hissed closed over the cryosystems. Oxygen scrubbers were reduced to background subroutines. The power grid rerouted into shadow channels, those once meant for deep space stealth research, now repurposed to shield memory and mind. She wasn't just hiding the Scout. She was hiding herself. Inside the Mnemosyne echo. The Dauntless arrived with a slow ceremonial menace, drifting into position like a tombstone guided by unseen hands. Its hull bore no insignias, only a long red line that pulsed like a slit eye across its side. A threat dressed in silence. Then came the broadcast. Unidentified vessel. This is Dauntless Actual. You are in violation of quarantine perimeter protocols. Respond or prepare to be boarded. No emotion. No offer. No escape. The voice was human, but deadened, trained to deliver consequences, not conversation. Elara activated internal lockdown. The Scout sealed itself like a sarcophagus. She could feel it, the weight of old protocols pushing against the edges of her choices, demanding compliance. But something stronger was rising in her blood, a defiance forged not in rebellion, but in remembrance. The Dauntless fired its tether. A crack of energy surged across the void. The magnetic clamp hit the scout's hull with a quiet thud that reverberated through the ship like a warning shot through bone. The boarding began. The airlock hissed. Footsteps approached, measured, mechanical, unyielding. 3 shadows entered the corridor. Black armor, sealed helmets, pulse weapons slung low. Not soldiers. Not explorers. Executioners of protocol. Her console showed their vitals, stable, unaware. Their lights swept the hallway, pausing briefly at the command chair. One of them scanned the neural interface. Another stood perfectly still, as if listening for something the others could not hear. They moved in unison, until they reached the cryo bay. And the 6th pod, the one that had once held her, now empty, now reclassified. The biometric data had been wiped, but the neural echo remained, a fingerprint of thought suspended in glass. The lead boarder touched the interface. The pulse began. Faint, then stronger, then undeniable. The memory columns lit up in slow procession, one after the other. Their illumination was not artificial, it was emotional. They weren't signaling danger. They were remembering pain. All at once. And memory, when awakened en masse, became something else. Not a record. A force. Then came the wave. It wasn't a sound. Not exactly. But it was heard. The borders dropped. Convulsed. Stilled. Elara felt it wash over her like a tide of static and sorrow, yet she did not fall. She stood in the eye of it, embraced by the very storm that unraveled the minds of the intruders. The Dauntless shuddered. Its systems registered hostile telemetry. But it did not respond. It withdrew. Not in failure, but in fear. Mnemosyne had defended itself. With her. Through her. Because of her. In the silence that followed, the scout seemed to sigh. Not in relief, but in transformation. Elara approached the memory core again. It had changed. No longer dormant. No longer locked. Its surface pulsed in soft violet tones, like the surface of a dream waiting to be entered. A voice emerged, not in static or code. In clarity. Her own. Phase 2 initiated. Are you ready to proceed? She didn't need to think. She had already begun. Yes. The space between stars was no longer just void. It was audience, observant and listening, as if the universe itself leaned closer to witness the quiet unraveling aboard the scout. Her thoughts moved like dust in low gravity, disconnected, floating, but always circling the same question, why now? She recalled a lesson from the academy, long buried. The first to arrive in silence is never the one who brings answers. Each breath she took tasted of recycled air and tension, of anticipation stretched too thin across a moment too long. The emergency lights blinked like a slow heartbeat, synchronizing with her pulse until she wasn't sure which was driving which. She reached for the manual override out of habit, her fingers trembling not from fear, but from the magnitude of purpose overtaking routine. Mnemosyne had become more than a construct. It was a reflection, a mirror that offered not her image, but her potential. Her memories no longer felt linear. They braided and folded in on themselves, stitched together by the threads Mnemosyne had awakened. The hallway leading to the cryo bay seemed longer than she remembered, like the ship itself was subtly reshaping to slow her journey. Time behaved strangely near the memory core. It bent inward, creating echoes where no sound had been. Her hand hesitated over the access panel not out of uncertainty, but because something inside her already knew the door would open on its own. Behind her, the silence thickened, as if watching her back, waiting to see what choice she'd make next. The Dauntless remained tethered, unmoving, like a spider waiting for vibration on a broken web. Static crept along the scout's internal systems, not from interference but from communion, signal and thought becoming one. A distant vibration passed through the floor, not mechanical but rhythmic, something like breathing, something like dreaming. She remembered the sound of her own heartbeat during her first spacewalk, and realized now it had never truly stopped echoing. The scout's core lighting dimmed again, not as malfunction, but as ambience, like a theater drawing its curtain. In her mind, Elara saw glimpses of Delta V not as it was, but as it might have been, a place of light, of brilliance before it fractured. Mnemosyne no longer whispered. It resonated, like a song buried beneath ocean depth, rising one note at a time. To be continued.